The March rain hammered Boston's financial district as I pushed through the revolving doors of Harrington and Blake architecture, my portfolio case clutched against my chest like a shield. Water dripped from my secondhand blazer onto the marble floor, and my carefully styled hair had surrendered to the downpour blocks ago. I was already 15 minutes late for my first day. "Miss Chen!" A crisp voice cut through my panicked thoughts. A woman in her 50s, immaculate in dove gray, approached with a tablet. "I'm Patricia, Mr. Kovac's executive assistant. You were expected at 8:30. "I'm so sorry," I stammered. "The tea was delayed. Mr. Kovac doesn't accept excuses." Her tone was polite but final. "Leave your things in the intern bullpen and report to his office immediately. 17th floor, corner suite." My stomach dropped. I'd been hired as a junior architectural drafter, the lowest position in the firm. I shouldn't be anywhere near the principal architect's office on my first day. The elevator ride felt eternal. 6 months ago, I'd fled San Francisco with nothing but my degree and enough savings for 2 months' rent. Boston was supposed to be my fresh start, anonymous and safe, far from my ex-boyfriend's escalating obsession that had turned my final year of architecture school into a nightmare of surveillance and control. I knocked once at the corner office, my hand trembling. "Enter!" The voice was deep and carried the weight of absolute authority. Roman Kovac couldn't have been more than 40, but he radiated presence that made age irrelevant. Dark hair swept back from a face all sharp angles and intensity. His suit was charcoal perfection, tailored so precisely it seemed molded to his broad shoulders. But it was his eyes that froze me in place, pale gray, intelligent, and completely unreadable. He didn't look up from the drawing spread across his desk. "You're late, Miss Chen." "Yes, sir, the subway—" "I don't care about the subway." His pen moved across the blueprint with surgical precision. "I care that every other intern managed to arrive on time despite the same weather conditions." Heat flooded my cheeks. "It won't happen again." "No," he agreed, finally looking up. "It won't." The full force of his attention was overwhelming. Those gray eyes swept over me, and I felt utterly transparent. "Patricia tells me you graduated top of your class at Berkeley. Your thesis project won the Pritzker Student Award." It wasn't a question. "Yet, you're working as a junior drafter in Boston, 3,000 miles from home. Why?" The question was too direct, too probing. "I wanted a change of scenery." "You're lying." He stood moving around the desk with fluid grace. "Your body language betrays you. Top graduates from Berkeley don't flee to entry-level positions across the country for scenery." My fingers tightened on the portfolio case. "My reasons are personal, Mr. Kovac. Everything is personal, Miss Chen. The question is whether it affects your work." He stopped directly in front of me. "Are you running from debt, legal trouble, a relationship?" I forced myself to meet his eyes. "The third one, and it's resolved." "Resolved." He repeated the word as if testing its weight. Interesting choice. Not over or ended, resolved. "He's been arrested," I said flatly. "Restraining order violated 3 times. He won't bother me again." Something shifted in Kovac's expression. Not quite sympathy, but understanding. "I see." He returned to his desk and withdrew a folder. When he opened it, my breath caught. Inside were photographs of me. Leaving my apartment this morning, entering a grocery store yesterday, court documents from San Francisco, police reports, even my undergraduate transcripts. "What the hell is this?" My voice shook with anger and fear. "Due diligence, Miss Chen." His tone remained infuriatingly calm. "I employ 42 people. I know everything about them, their strengths, vulnerabilities, secrets. It's not personal. It's protection. This is stalking. This is information." He closed the folder. "Information that tells me you're brilliant, talented, and running from a man who didn't understand no means no. Information that tells me you're exactly the kind of person who appreciates security and distance from your past. I have a proposition for you." He picked up blueprints. "A hotel project in Prague, boutique luxury, historic building, complicated restoration. The client is Czech, the structural engineer is from Beijing and speaks no English. I need someone who understands both architecture and can bridge that communication gap." My pulse quickened. "You want me to translate?" "I want you to come to Prague for 3 weeks. Translate technical discussions. Contribute design solutions if you're as talented as your awards suggest. He named a figure that was double my annual salary, plus expenses and accommodations. It was too perfect, too convenient. Why me? I asked, because you see solutions where others see problems. His eyes held mine. Because I can't afford mistakes on this project, and you don't make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. You haven't, not in 4 years of architecture school. His voice dropped. The only mistake in your record is the man you chose, and you corrected that. I should have said no. But the thought of 3 weeks in Prague working on a real project, the money that could pay off student loans? My grandmother, I said suddenly, she's in a nursing facility in Chinatown, early stage Alzheimer's. I need to arrange, already handled. He pulled out another document. I've made inquiries about Beacon Hill Memory Care, significantly better facility, specialized staff, all expenses covered for the next year. I felt the blood drain from my face. You contacted my grandmother's nursing home? I made inquiries about upgrade options. No commitment. He held my gaze. I'm offering you an opportunity, Miss Chen. A real architectural project, financial security, safety. Yes, I've done my research. That's how I protect my investments. I'm not an investment. Everyone is an investment. The question is whether they're worth it. He returned to his desk, dismissing me. The jet leaves tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'll have a car pick you up at noon. If you're not there, I'll understand. Patricia will process your termination paperwork. Termination? I just started. I don't hire people I can't trust with significant responsibilities. If you're not willing to go to Prague, you're not the architect I thought you were. The manipulation was blatant. But I found myself calculating. 3 weeks, 1 project, enough money to change my situation. Will there be other staff? I asked. My project manager, Dmitry, site supervisor, Elena, and myself. He glanced up. Private jet, private accommodations, professional context at all times? I should have been worried. Instead, I heard myself say, I'll need to pack. Already arranged. Size 6 clothing, size 7 shoes, professional attire. It will be waiting at the hotel. I stood there, torn between outrage and pragmatism. Finally, I asked the only question that mattered. What do you really want from me, Mr. Kovac? His gray eyes met mine, and for just a moment I saw something beneath the controlled exterior, something hungry and carefully contained. I want you to help me build something beautiful, Miss Chen. Everything else, we'll figure it out as we go. I should have run. Instead, I nodded and walked out, already knowing my carefully constructed new life was about to be demolished. What I didn't know was that by the time we returned from Prague, there would be no life to return to. Because Roman Kovac didn't just build beautiful buildings, he built empires, and he'd just decided I was going to be part of his. At dawn, I visited Nainai in Chinatown. I found her at her small kitchen table working on a puzzle. You're leaving again, she said. Not a question. She always knew. Just for 3 weeks, a work project in Europe. I knelt beside her chair. But I've arranged for you to move to a new facility. Better care. Too expensive. She shook her head. I'm fine here. It's covered. My new employer is very generous. Her eyes narrowed with shrewdness that Alzheimer's hadn't yet stolen. No one is that generous without wanting something in return. Maybe he just values good work. She studied my face. This employer, he's the one who makes you nervous? I'm not nervous. You bite your lip when you're nervous. You've done it since you were small. She touched my cheek. Be careful, Xiaolong. Powerful men are like storms, beautiful to watch from safety, dangerous when you're caught in them. At precisely 11:45, a black Mercedes pulled up to my building. The driver, Dmitry, massive and professional, took my bag without a word. As we drove to Hanscom Field, I noticed another car following us. Is that normal? I asked. Or the second car? Dmitry's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. Mr. Kovac values security, Miss Chen. The private jet was elegant and intimidating. Roman stood at the base of the stairs, phone to his ear, gesturing sharply. Today's suit was navy, making his gray eyes seem even paler. Miss Chen, punctual. I appreciate that. The ghost of a smile touched his lips. Shall we? Inside, a severe woman in a black suit looked up from her laptop. Elena Petrova, Roman introduced. Site supervisor, Elena, Dr. Lily Chen. Doctor? I blinked. I haven't yet, Roman said, but you will. As the jet climbed into gray skies, Roman pulled up the Prague project on his tablet. For the next hour, we bent over structural drawings, debating approaches. His knowledge was comprehensive, his design instincts razor sharp. He pushed back on my ideas, mercilessly, but when I made strong arguments, he conceded with respect. Here, he said, showing me a sketch. What if we treat the building as a floating foundation? Base isolation, let it move slightly, but control the movement? It's been done in Tokyo, I said, pulling up references. Retrofitting a historic building would be expensive and complicated. So is everything worth doing. His eyes met mine, and the phrase hung between us, laden with meaning beyond architecture. Why me? I asked suddenly. Really, there are dozens of architects with more experience, because you see solutions where others see problems. Because when I reviewed your Berkeley thesis, I saw someone who understands that great architecture serves people, not egos. He paused. And because I can't afford mistakes on this project, you don't make mistakes. The only mistake in your record is the man you chose, and you corrected that. His voice dropped. That's not judgment. That's admiration. Something in my chest tightened at his words. Prague appeared below us, a fairy tale city of spires and red roofs, the Vltava River curving through it like molten silver. My hotel room was on the 4th floor of a converted historic building. Exposed beams, tall windows, furniture both antique and comfortable, and the closet, as promised, was full of clothes. Not just clothes, a wardrobe. Professional pieces in my exact size, custom quality, probably costing more than my monthly rent. Elena appeared with a phone. Sleek, new, expensive. Your work phone. Roman is particular about appearances. In our world, how you look is part of how you're perceived. In your world, I said carefully. What exactly is your world, Elena? Her expression became neutral. Architecture, development, international projects. Because men like Victor Novak don't just know people. Because you and Dmitry move like security professionals. Because Roman has resources to investigate employees down to their vaccination records. I met her eyes. What am I really part of? Elena studied me. Roman will answer your questions when he's ready. Until then, focus on the architecture. Do your job. Don't dig into what doesn't concern you. She paused at the door. For what it's worth, Roman doesn't bring people into his inner circle lightly. Don't waste it. My phone buzzed with a text from Roman. Nine is settled at Beacon Hill Memory Care. Private room overlooking the garden. She's comfortable. He'd moved her. Already. Another text. Dinner at 8. Dmitry will collect you at 7:45, dressed for a nice restaurant. By 7:30, I dressed in tailored black pants and an emerald silk blouse that brought out my eyes. The woman in the mirror looked polished, confident, far more certain than I felt. The restaurant was intimate. Stone arches, candlelight, only a dozen tables. Roman rose as I entered, wearing something darker, more refined, no tie, the top button undone. He looked younger, less formal, but no less commanding. Thank you for joining me. He pulled out my chair, poured wine. You moved my grandmother, I said without preamble. I arranged the transfer. The facility confirmed she was comfortable. He met my eyes. She has a view of the garden. She enjoys watching the birds. You had no right. I had your authorization to discuss options. His gray eyes held mine. Would you prefer I undo it? Send her back to the shared room? The overwhelmed staff? I couldn't. Because he was right. Beacon Hill was better. You manipulate people, I said. I solve problems. He sipped his wine. The distinction is philosophical. Over dinner, exceptional venison, perfectly paired wine, the conversation shifted to safer topics. The Prague project, Dr. Zhang's temperament, historic preservation challenges. Roman was easier to talk to than I expected. He asked genuine questions, listened, pushed back thoughtfully when he disagreed. Tell me about your thesis project, he said over dessert. I described my grandmother's building in Chinatown, how I designed a seismic upgrade to save it, how the owner demolished it anyway. Nai lost her apartment. That's why she's in the facility. She couldn't afford anything else in San Francisco. I own that building now, Roman said casually. I stared at him. What? I purchased it 6 months ago. It's being retrofitted, seismically upgraded, preserving the architectural character. He showed me plans on his phone. The displaced families will have first option to return at below market rents, including your grandmother, should she wish. I couldn't process what he was telling me. When I read about your thesis 3 years ago about what happened to your grandmother, I took an interest. He put away his phone. When I saw you'd moved to Boston, I made inquiries. When I learned the reason, his jaw tightened. I arranged the position at my firm. The job was fake? The job was real. The opening was manufactured. He met my eyes steadily. I needed someone with your skills. You needed employment, distance, resources to care for your grandmother. This solved both problems. By manipulating me, by offering you opportunities you wouldn't have had otherwise. No apology. Tell me honestly, if I'd approached you 3 years ago, would you have accepted? He was right. 3 years ago, I would have refused on principle. What do you want from me, Roman? He was quiet for a long moment. I want you to finish the Prague project. Help me solve problems no one else can solve. And then, he paused. I want you to decide if you want to stay. Stay? In my organization, I have projects in 15 countries. Buildings that matter. I could use someone who sees architecture the way you do. And that's all? His expression became controlled. For now? Yes. For now. The words hung between us, loaded with implication. What if I say no after 3 weeks? Then you go back to Boston. Your position remains open. Your grandmother remains at Beacon Hill at my expense. His voice was steady. I don't trap people, Miss Chen. I give them reasons to stay. That's still manipulation. Yes, he agreed, but it's honest manipulation, which is the only kind I practice. We walked back to my hotel in silence, Dmitri trailing at a distance. When we reached my building's entrance, Roman stopped. Tomorrow we start at 7 a.m. Dress for construction, hard hat, boots, they're in your closet. Of course they are. The ghost of a smile touched his lips. Good night, Dr. Chen. He turned to leave, then paused. Lily? It was the first time he had used my first name. Thank you. For tonight, for being honest, most people would have smiled and pretended to be fine with everything. I'm terrible at pretending. I know. His gray eyes caught the streetlight. That's one of the things I admire about you. Then he was gone, leaving me with my heart doing complicated things I didn't want to examine. The first week passed in a blur of site meetings and structural calculations. The Gothic hotel was magnificent, but in terrible condition. Scaffolding covered one side, cracks showed settling foundation. Dr. Zhang Wei met us at the construction site, shouting angrily in Mandarin at a foreman. The load calculations are wrong. I've told you 3 times. He spotted us and switched to accented English. Mr. Kovac. Finally. Dr. Zhang, Roman said calmly, allow me to introduce Dr. Lily Chen. She'll be facilitating our communications. Dr. Zhang turned skeptical eyes on me. You're an architect? Structural focus, I replied in Mandarin. Berkeley, graduated last May. My thesis was on seismic retrofitting of historic buildings. His eyebrows rose. Your Mandarin is native. My grandmother raised me. She refused to speak English at home. His expression softened. Where is she from? Shanghai. Originally. He nodded, satisfied, then launched into rapid technical explanation. I listened carefully, then turned to Roman and translated not just words, but meaning, frustration, genuine concern for the building's integrity. When Victor Novak arrived, portly, expensive suit, hard eyes, the meeting became intense. I translated everything faithfully, gradually understanding the real problem, money. Novak wanted to cut corners. Dr. Zhang refused to compromise safety. Roman was caught between. Enough, Novak finally said. Roman, you have 3 weeks. Fix it or I find new architect. He looked at me appraisingly. The girl stays. She's useful. After he left, Dr. Zhang said in Mandarin, that man is going to get someone killed. Tell Roman exactly what you said, I instructed. Dr. Zhang's eyes widened. I'm supposed to translate accurately. That's what I'm doing. Roman's expression remained neutral as I delivered the message, but something flickered in his eyes. Approval. Dr. Zhang is right, he said calmly, which is why we're going to solve this correctly. Lily, tell him I said that. I did, and for the first time, Dr. Zhang smiled. That evening, Roman requested my presence in his suite. I found him surrounded by papers and laptops, looking exhausted but satisfied. I need you to translate something. He pulled up a document, pages of dense Chinese about waste disposal practices. As I read, my stomach turned. It detailed illegal practices, contaminated materials shipped under false documentation, bribes to customs officials, disposal in unauthorized locations. Where did you get this? I asked. From a former business partner, Victor cheated. Roman's expression was grim. Victor's been dumping waste illegally for years across Eastern Europe. This document proves it. If this got out, he'd face criminal charges in 6 countries, prison time, asset seizure, complete destruction. Roman leaned back. I need you to translate it, every word precisely, because I'm presenting it to him tomorrow. That's blackmail. Yes, but the alternative is letting him get away with environmental crimes poisoning people, so I'm comfortable with the ethics. I looked at the document again, thinking about what it represented, Victor's arrogance, his willingness to put profit above safety. I'll translate it, I said, every word. We worked through the night. By dawn, we had a comprehensive dossier, contamination evidence, the Chinese memo, additional documentation, all organized and translated. On day 8, I was reviewing site data when something caught my eye. Roman, there's something you should see. I showed him Dr. Zhang's new soil samples. The contamination levels don't match the original geological survey. This isn't historic industrial residue. It's recent, within the last 5 years. Roman and Elena exchanged a look. Victor Novak has been rumored to run illegal waste disposal operations, Elena said carefully. Industrial chemicals that cost too much to dispose of properly. My stomach sank. He buried waste on this site, then decided to develop it before anyone could discover what he'd done. We can't prove it, Roman said. But yes, that's the logical conclusion. And we're building on top of it? I stood, anger flooding through me. We could be complicit in covering up environmental crimes, which is why we're not covering it up. Roman's voice was steel. We're going to force proper remediation, environmental cleanup before we pour foundation, full documentation, licensed disposal, everything by the book. Victor will never agree. Elena protested. The cost is his problem. Roman's voice had that absolute quality. Lily's right. We're not covering up crimes. We fix it or we walk together. The way he said together made my pulse quicken. That night, at Victor's office, a penthouse overlooking the river, Roman laid out our findings. I translated Dr. Zhang's contamination analysis. Elena presented cost projections. Victor listened, expression genial but eyes cold. 2 bodyguards flanked him. Old industrial residue. He dismissed when I finished. We excavate, dispose, continue. No, Roman said. The contamination is recent and extensive. It requires proper environmental remediation. 2 million euros, possibly more. Silence. Victor drew on his cigar, regarding us through smoke. Then he smiled, cold, predatory. Dr. Chen, you are very thorough, perhaps too thorough. He turned to Roman. Fire her. Find new translator who understands discretion. Dr. Chen stays, Roman said quietly, and the contamination must be remediated. Those are my terms. Victor's eyes narrowed. Your terms? You forget who is client. I can fire you. Fire me then. Roman stood and I followed. But you won't find another architect willing to certify a foundation built on illegally dumped toxic waste. There are many. Architects who understand business requires flexibility. Then hire one. Roman's voice was ice. Dr. Chen, Elena, we're leaving. We were at the door when Victor spoke again. You understand what you are refusing, this project, but also future work. Connections in Prague, Vienna, Berlin. I could open many doors. Or close them, Roman said without turning. And if those doors close very hard, if complications arise? Roman turned, and his expression made my blood run cold. Something dangerous and carefully controlled flickered in his eyes. Victor, I've operated in 15 countries. I've negotiated with warlords, oligarchs, cartel bosses. I've walked away from $500 million because terms were unacceptable. He took a step toward Victor's desk. Do you think threats will work where money didn't? The bodyguard shifted, hands moving toward jackets. Roman didn't seem concerned. 24 hours. Agree to proper remediation or we terminate the contract. Those are your only options. In the elevator, Elena exhaled. That went badly. That went exactly as expected, Roman said calmly. Victor needed to understand we're serious. He threatened you. I said, voice shaking. He threatened all of us. Roman looked at me, expression softening. Victor makes threats easily. Following through is more complicated, especially against someone with resources of their own. Back at my hotel, Roman came to my room. He looked more disheveled than I'd ever seen him. Jacket off, sleeves rolled, tie loosened. I need to tell you something, he said. Something I should have told you before bringing you here. My heart raced. Okay. I'm not just an architect, Lily. Architecture is what I do, what I love, but it's not the whole story. He turned to face me. My family's business is more complicated than design and construction. I suspected, I said quietly. My father built an organization. Started as construction, but he needed financing. Connections, ways to move money across borders, so he made arrangements with people who could provide those things. He ran a hand through his hair. Not maffia exactly, but adjacent. We facilitate things. Money laundering through construction projects, providing services to clients who might not pass scrutiny, moving assets through corporate structures across borders. He met my eyes. My father died 5 years ago. I inherited everything, legitimate and otherwise. I've been trying to clean it, slowly, carefully. The architecture is real, the projects are real, but yes, some clients are problematic, like Victor. Who you're walking away from, I said. Because of what you found. Because you were right, we can't be complicit in crimes. His eyes held mine. But also because I don't want you near someone like Victor. Because cleaning up my father's organization might require burning bridges. And I'm willing to do that if it means becoming someone you could respect. I stared at him, seeing him clearly. Not the intimidating architect, but a man trying to be better than his inheritance. Are you in danger from Kovac? I've been in danger my entire life. I've just been good at managing it. He moved closer. But you're not accustomed to this world. I should never have brought you without full disclosure. That was manipulative and unfair. You're right, it was. I held his gaze. But I'm not helpless. I survived Marcus. I can survive knowing some of your clients are criminals. If Victor makes this personal, then we'll deal with it. Together. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, gratitude. He reached out slowly and cupped my cheek. You're extraordinary. Do you know that? I'm practical, I corrected, and developing poor judgment about who I trust. The worst judgment, he agreed. Then he kissed me. It was gentle, questioning, as if asking permission. His lips were warm and surprisingly soft. When I responded, I felt him. Exhale, tension leaving his body. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. We should stop, he murmured. Probably, I agreed. Neither of us moved. If we do this, he said, voice rough, if we become more than employer and employee, it changes everything. You'll be part of my world in a way that makes you a target. That's already true. Kovac already threatened me. That was business. This would be personal. His thumb traced my cheekbone. I can protect you from business threats. Personal ones are harder. Are you trying to talk me out of this? Yes, because it's the right thing. His eyes met mine, and the hunger in them stole my breath. But I'm hoping you'll ignore me, because I've wanted this since you walked into my office, soaking wet and late and terrified, but too proud to show it. I pulled him closer and kissed him again. This time was different, less controlled, more intense. His hands moved to my waist. I wound fingers into his hair, feeling him shudder. Years of tension collapsed in that moment. We stumbled toward the bed. When his skin met mine, it felt like something unlocking, a part of myself I'd kept guarded since Marcus. But this was different. Roman touched me like I was precious, looked at me like I was the solution to a problem he'd been trying to solve. And when we finally came together, when I arched against him and heard him murmur my name like a prayer, I understood what I'd been running from. Not danger or complication. The terrifying vulnerability of letting someone truly see me and choosing me anyway. I woke to warmth and the scent of Roman's cologne. He was propped on one elbow watching me. That's creepy, I mumbled. You snore slightly. It's charming. I do not. His phone buzzed urgently. He grabbed it, frowning. It's Elena. What's wrong? I couldn't hear her response, but I watched his expression darken. When? Is Dr. Zhang safe? A pause. We're coming. He was already moving, grabbing clothes. The construction site. There's been an incident. 20 minutes later, we screeched to a halt outside the site. Emergency vehicles surrounded it, fire trucks, police, ambulances. Smoke hung in the air, acrid and chemical. The construction trailer was destroyed, blackened, twisted metal, nothing inside recognizable. Elena met us at the police line. Dr. Zhang is fine. He wasn't here when it happened. When what happened? I demanded. Arson. Someone broke in around 3 a.m., poured accelerant, lit it up. All our plans, computers, documentation, gone. The contamination data, I said. Dr. Zhang's soil analysis. Destroyed. Elena confirmed. Roman's expression had gone completely cold. Backups? Everything's on the cloud. We haven't lost data, just equipment. Elena looked at him carefully. Police are calling it vandalism, but it's Victor sending a message. Roman finished. Over the next 48 hours, I watched Roman operate when he decided to go to war. We relocated to a different hotel, one Roman owned with serious security. Dr. Zhang was moved there too. Then Roman made phone calls in 6 languages to people whose influence was obvious from the deferential way he negotiated. What's he doing? I asked Elena. Building a case. Victor has connections throughout Eastern Europe, but he's also made enemies. People he's cheated, partners he's betrayed. Elena's expression was hard to read. Roman's calling in favors, gathering information, building leverage. By the time he's done, he'll know every crime Victor committed, and then he'll present Victor with a choice. What choice? Agree to remediation or watch his empire collapse. On the 3rd day, Roman showed me what he'd gathered. The Chinese memo about illegal waste disposal, documents proving Victor's crimes across multiple countries. If this got out, he'd be facing criminal charges in 6 countries. Prison time measured in decades. Roman's expression was grim. I need you to translate this perfectly because I'm presenting it to him tomorrow. We worked through the night, ensuring every translation was perfect. The next day, in a law office with lawyers present, Roman laid out the dossier methodically. I translated when necessary. As Victor read, I watched his face transition from arrogance to shock to rage. This is blackmail, he finally said. You burned down my construction trailer. You threatened my staff. Roman's voice was ice. You made this personal. I'm responding in kind. Victor looked at the dossier, then at his lawyers, then back to Roman. You swear this stays private if I comply? You have my word. Complete the project properly, remediate the contamination, and no one sees this but us. And you finish the project? Make it beautiful? Better than beautiful. Structurally sound, historically preserved, built on clean soil. Victor nodded once sharply. Agreed, and then we are finished. No future business. That's acceptable. Documents were signed. By the time we left, the deal was formalized. 2 million euros for remediation, completion according to our specifications, and the permanent end of any relationship between Roman Kovac and Victor Novak. Outside, the Prague afternoon was bright. Elena smiled when she saw our faces. He agreed? He agreed. Roman looked at me. This was your victory, Lily. Finding the contamination, refusing to ignore it, translating the evidence. Our victory, I corrected. You built the case, found the leverage. Because you made me want to be someone who would. Someone who wouldn't compromise on what's right. I kissed him right there on the public street, not caring who saw. When we broke apart, he was smiling, a real smile, open and genuine. About staying, about working with me beyond these 3 weeks. I have conditions, I said. Name them. No more surveillance without permission. Full. Transparency about projects and clients. My grandmother's care guaranteed in writing. I met his eyes. And I want to know what we are. Is this real? Or is it how you keep talented employees? His expression sobered. It's real, Lily. More real than anything I've felt in years. He took my hands. I won't lie. My world is complicated. But I swear I'll never ask you to compromise your integrity, and I'll never lie about who I am or what I do. Even when the truth is ugly. Especially then. He squeezed my hands. You make me want to be better, more honest, more principled, more human. I won't waste that. I searched his face for manipulation or calculation, but all I saw was honesty. Raw, uncomfortable honesty from a man who'd built his life on control. Okay, I said. I'll stay. Work with you, build with you, see where this goes. Just like that? Just like that. though I reserve the right to change my mind if you turn out to be secretly running a drug cartel." He laughed, genuine, surprised. "No drug cartels, just architecture, ethically questionable clients, and occasional blackmail into doing the right thing. I can work with that." 6 months later, the Prague hotel opened to critical acclaim. The base isolation system worked perfectly. The contamination had been fully remediated, all documented and certified. Nai passed away peacefully 3 months after the opening. She'd been lucid that final week, happy in her sunny room, telling me stories. She'd met Roman twice and told me in Mandarin, "This one is complicated, but his heart is good. Hold on to him." I took her advice. Roman and I worked on 4 more projects that year, including a community center in San Francisco's Chinatown, built on one of the buildings his company had acquired. We did it pro bono. At the opening ceremony, Roman showed me a plaque near the entrance, the Lily and Roman Kovac Community Center. "In memory of Chen Meiling, who believed in abusive, building places where lives can unfold." Tears blurred my vision reading my grandmother's name. "If we're building a life together," Roman said quietly, "we should build it on the right foundation. This seemed like the right place to start." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple ring, white gold, a single sapphire. "I'm not good at romance, and my world is complicated, but will you marry me? Will you build a life with me and continue making me want to be better?" "Yes," I said, "to all of it." He slid the ring onto my finger. Of course it fit perfectly, and kissed me while a worker applauded from a distance. "I love you," he said. "Your principles, your talent, your inability to be intimidated by me, your terrible judgment in agreeing to Prague with a man who had been watching you for 3 years." "I love you too," I replied. "Your honesty about dishonesty, your determination to be better than your inheritance, your tendency to solve problems by accumulating massive leverage on everyone." We stood there in our building, in the neighborhood where my grandmother had once lived, and I understood finally what she'd meant about powerful men being like storms. She was right. Roman Kovac was dangerous, but I'd learned to dance in the storm, and I'd found it was where I belonged. 2 years later, the architectural firm now had offices in 6 countries. Roman had systematically cleaned his father's organization, not perfectly, but enough that we could sleep at night. Some clients were let go, some arrangements terminated, bridges burned, but the architecture was better for it. I was 4 months pregnant with our first child, a daughter we decided to name Meiling, after my grandmother. Roman had purchased a converted brownstone in Boston with space for offices, a home, and studios. The top floor was still undergoing renovation. "I'm installing additional security," Roman mentioned one evening. "How much?" "Additional? Not much. Reinforced windows, upgraded locks, discreet cameras." "Roman. And possibly a panic room. Very small, barely noticeable." "We're having a baby, not relocating to a war zone." "Our daughter deserves to grow up safe. Our daughter deserves to grow up normal." "She's our daughter. Normal was never an option." He wasn't wrong, but she'd be loved. She'd be honest, and she'd know that sometimes the right thing is hard, expensive, and dangerous, but worth doing anyway. That evening, I stood at the window watching the sunset, and Roman joined me, wrapping arms around me from behind, hands resting on my growing belly. "Another client?" I asked, hearing him end a call. "Former client. He wanted us to falsify structural calculations. I told him to find another firm." "That's the 4th this month." "Yes. But the museum in Copenhagen came through and the school in Chicago. We're doing fine financially, and the work actually matters." I leaned against him, feeling his heartbeat. "Do you ever regret it? Choosing integrity over profit?" "Never. My father built an empire. I'm building a legacy. There's a difference." "What about me? Do you regret manipulating me into your world?" He was quiet. "I regret the method. The invasion of privacy, the manipulation. But I can't regret the outcome. You, choosing to stay despite knowing everything. That's more than I deserve. You were creepy, controlling, and ethically questionable. You should have been honest from the start." "I should have." "But you're trying to be better every day, and that counts for something." "Does it count for enough?" I kissed him, soft and slow and certain. "It counts for everything." The sun set over Boston, painting the sky amber and rose. Somewhere in the city, families were having dinner, architects were drafting plans, builders were constructing futures. And in our apartment, two complicated people who'd found each other through manipulation and stayed through choice stood together, building something neither had expected. A life based on honest communication, mutual respect, and understanding that perfection was impossible, but growth was always available. "Lily," Roman said softly. "Thank you for seeing who I was and choosing me anyway, for making me want to be better, for being impossible to manipulate, for staying." I covered his hand with mine. "Thank you for giving me reasons to stay. Honest ones, even when uncomfortable." We stood as darkness fell, two architects building a life one decision at a time, proving that even foundations built on manipulation could support something real if you were willing to do the hard work of making it right. When our daughter was born 5 months later, we would teach her what we'd learned, that power without principle is hollow, that honesty is harder but more valuable than comfort, and that the best architecture requires a foundation strong enough to support whatever you build upon it. But that evening, we simply stood together in the gathering dark, two complicated people building something beautiful from imperfect materials. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't simple, it certainly wasn't conventional, but it was honest, it was real, and it was ours. And sometimes, that's the best foundation anyone can ask for.